I abandoned my family because they deserved it. I walked out on my wife and one 3-year-old daughter 6 days after discovering the affair. No warning, no explanation, just gone. It's been almost 6 months now, and I don't regret a single second. Our marriage seemed perfect. Plenty of intimacy, regular date nights, the whole picture-perfect family thing. I had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. Then came that Tuesday night. I came home late from a mandatory safety seminar around 11 p.m. Eve was asleep on the couch, TV still playing. Her phone lit up with a notification. Emojis I immediately recognized. A heart, a fire, a winking face, the exact combination I used when texting her. My stomach dropped. I picked up her phone and opened the messages. 5 months of affair messages with Adam, her co-worker. I knew Adam from the company Christmas party. Nice guy, married with 3 kids. Reading those texts, something fundamental shifted in my brain instantly. 1 second, I loved Eve more than anything. The next second, I felt absolutely nothing. Just vast emptiness, like someone flipped a switch and turned off every emotion. I took screenshots of everything and went to bed without waking her. The next morning, Eve was furious about neck pain from sleeping on the couch, blamed me for not waking her. I just stared while she talked. Her voice sounded muffled like I was underwater. At breakfast, she and my daughter Kaylee chatted about some school project. They laughed, passing the orange juice, completely engrossed. I sat right there at the table, and they didn't acknowledge me once. Not a single glance. I went to work that day and the days after going through normal motions. The only difference, I stopped talking. Maybe 3 or 4 words per day total. Nobody noticed. Not my wife, not my daughter, not my co-workers. I could have been a ghost and it wouldn't have made any difference to their lives. By day 3, I understood the horrible truth. They didn't actually love me. I was just there, a fixture in the house, the guy who paid the mortgage and fixed things when they broke. But as a person, completely invisible. Eve would come home talking about her day, never asking about mine. Kaylee would bounce in, grab snacks, talk at me about friends, and disappear to her room. They only looked at me when they needed something. Drive me to practice, pick up groceries, fix the garage door. 5 days of this. 5 days of feeling like I didn't exist in my own home. These waves of pain would hit me randomly while making coffee, driving to work, sitting next to them on the couch. The pain would be so intense I could barely breathe. Day 5. During dinner, Eve finally asked if something was wrong. I hadn't said more than 10 words all week. I just made a confused face and went back to eating. She seemed satisfied with that non-answer and continued chatting with Kaylee about some school events. Day 6. I didn't go to work, called in sick and sat in my car in the driveway for an hour with no plan. Eventually, I went inside and sat at the kitchen table. Just sat there in silence waiting. Eve came home around 4 p.m., carrying grocery bags. Walked right past me into the kitchen. Immediately started talking about her day. Some story about a difficult client. A funny thing, her coworker said. A sale at Target. She unpacked groceries with her back to me the entire time. Didn't look at me except one brief glance when she entered. Kaylee bounced in minutes later, dropped her backpack, joined Eve at the counter. They talked about items on sale, completely absorbed in their own world, both with their backs turned to me. I sat there watching them and something inside me shattered completely. All these memories flooded back. Birthday parties where they barely thanked me for gifts. I spent weeks picking out. Vacations I planned entirely alone while they complained about minor inconveniences. Years of conversations where they talked at me, never with me. They never loved me. They probably never did. I was just an accessory to their perfect little life. I walked upstairs to grab some clothes and passed Kaylee's room. Her door was cracked open and I heard her on the phone. "No, Mom. He doesn't suspect anything. He's been weird this week, but he's always weird." Long pause. "Yeah, Adam's really nice. Way better than Dad, honestly. At least he actually listens when we talk." My hand froze on the doorframe. "When are you going to tell him? I'm tired of pretending everything's normal." Another pause, then she laughed. "True, he probably wouldn't even notice if you just moved Adam in." I backed away slowly, my daughter's voice still echoing. She'd known about the affair the whole time. They'd turned my daughter against me without me even knowing, which meant, in any divorce, she'd side with Eve. Tell the judge I was distant and cold. Because now I wasn't just losing a cheating wife, I was about to lose my daughter to the man who destroyed our family. You know what the worst part was? I stood there in that hallway for like 10 minutes, just frozen. I could hear Kaylee still talking, laughing actually, about how clueless I was. She was saying stuff like, "He works so much he probably hasn't noticed. Mom's been different at all." And the thing is, she was right. I hadn't noticed. I'd been so focused on providing for them, making sure they had everything they needed, that I'd become this walking ATM who occasionally fixed stuff around the house. I went to our bedroom and just sat on the edge of the bed. The room smelled like Eve's perfume, the expensive one I'd bought her for our anniversary 3 months ago. I remember she'd barely said thank you, just sprayed some on and said she had to run to the grocery store. Looking back now, I'm pretty sure she was meeting Adam. The thought made me want to punch something, but instead I just sat there feeling this weird calm wash over me. My phone buzzed. a text from my buddy James asking if I wanted to grab beers on Friday. I looked at it and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd said yes to hanging out with friends. Eve always had something planned. Family dinner, Kaylee's school thing, her work event that I had to attend. Always something. And I'd just gone along with it because that's what you do, right? You prioritize your family. Except they weren't prioritizing me. They were tolerating me. I opened my phone and started scrolling through photos. Birthdays, holidays, random weekends. In every single picture, Eve and Kaylee were close together, arms around each other, big smiles, and I was always slightly off to the side. Sometimes I wasn't even looking at the camera. Sometimes I wasn't in the photo at all, even though I'd been there. I'd been the one taking the picture. There was this one from Kaylee's 12th birthday party at that trampoline place she'd wanted to go to. I'd worked a double shift the day before to afford it, then spent 3 hours setting up decorations at home before we left. In the photo, Kaylee and Eve are mid-jump on a trampoline, both laughing. I'm in the background, blurry, holding their jackets and purses. That's literally what I was doing the whole party, holding their stuff while they had fun. I stood up and opened the closet. My work clothes took up maybe a quarter of the space. The rest was Eve's dresses, shoes, jackets she'd worn maybe once. I grabbed my old gym bag from the top shelf and started throwing clothes in. Jeans, shirts, underwear, socks, the essentials. I wasn't thinking clearly, just moving on autopilot. Downstairs, I could hear them laughing about something. The TV was on, some show they both loved that I found boring. They'd never asked if I wanted to watch something else. They'd just turn it on and that was that. I'd usually end up on my phone or dozing off on the couch until Eve nudged me and told me to go to bed because my snoring was annoying. I grabbed my toiletries from the bathroom. Toothbrush, deodorant, razor, basic stuff. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself. When had I started looking so tired? The bags under my eyes, the way my shoulders slumped. I looked like someone who'd given up on himself a long time ago. Back in the bedroom, I pulled out the file box from under the bed where we kept important documents. Birth certificates, social security cards, our marriage license. I took photos of everything with my phone, then grabbed my passport and some other papers I might need. I had no idea what I was doing, but something told me I'd need this stuff later. The screenshots from Eve's phone were still on mine. I backed them up to my email, then to a cloud drive, then to a USB stick I found in my desk drawer. I must have saved them in 4 different places. I wasn't going to let her deny this. I wasn't going to let her twist the story and make me the bad guy. My wallet was on the dresser. I opened it and counted the cash. $243. Not much, but it would get me through a few days. I grabbed my laptop, charger, and threw them in the bag with everything else. The whole time, my hands were steady. No shaking, no crying, nothing. Just this mechanical process of packing up pieces of my life. It probably took 15 minutes total. 15 minutes to gather up everything that mattered to me from this house I'd lived in for 8 years. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom one last time. The bed Eve and I used to share, back when things were good, or when I thought they were good. The dresser with her jewelry box on top, full of things I'd bought her over the years. The chair in the corner where I'd sit and put my socks on every morning while she slept in. None of it felt like mine anymore. It was all just stuff. I grabbed my keys off the hook by the front door. The ones Eve had complained were too jangly and annoying. I could still hear them in the living room. Some commercial was playing. Eve said something and Kaylee responded, but I couldn't make out the words. Didn't matter anyway. I walked out the front door and closed it quietly behind me. Didn't slam it, didn't make a scene, just left. The night air was cold and I realized I'd forgotten my jacket, but I wasn't going back for it. I threw my bag in the passenger seat of my truck and sat behind the wheel. For a minute, I thought about going back inside, walking into that living room and confronting them both, asking Eve how long she'd been screwing Adam, asking Kaylee when she'd decided I wasn't worth her time anymore. But what would be the point? They'd already made their choice. They'd been making it for months, maybe years, and I'd been too stupid to notice. I started the truck and backed out of the driveway. The house looked the same as always. Lights on in the living room window. The porch light I'd fixed last month. The mailbox with our last name painted on it that Eve had insisted we needed because it looked more established. I drove past it all and didn't look back. The first night I ended up at this motel about 40 minutes away, off the highway in a town I'd never been to. The kind of place with hourly rates and a flickering neon sign. The guy at the front desk didn't ask questions, just took my cash and handed me a key. Room 18, around the back. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and cleaning chemicals trying to cover up something worse. The bedspread was this ugly floral pattern that probably hadn't been washed in months. There was a TV bolted to the dresser and a bathroom so small I could barely turn around in it, but it was mine. Nobody was here telling me I was snoring too loud or asking me to fix something or treating me like I was invisible. I sat on the edge of the bed and realized I had no idea what to do next. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, but I didn't even look at it. I knew it would be Eve, probably wondering where I was, probably annoyed that I'd left during her show. Or maybe she hadn't even noticed yet. Maybe she and Kaylee were still on that couch, completely absorbed in whatever was on TV, not even realizing the guy who paid for it all had walked out. I turned my phone off and plugged it into charge. Then I just sat there in the quiet, listening to the hum of the AC unit under the window and the occasional car passing by outside. The silence was almost painful after years of constant noise. Eve talking, Kaylee's music playing, the TV always on in the background. But you know what? It was also kind of peaceful. I pulled out my laptop and opened my email. Those screenshots were right there, waiting. 5 months of messages between my wife and her coworker. I started reading through them again, really reading them this time. The first ones were innocent enough. Work stuff, lunch plans, complaints about their boss. Then they got flirtier. Inside jokes, compliments, emoji combinations that meant something only they understood. By month 3, they were meeting up. Hotels during lunch breaks, his car in empty parking lots. Even my house once when I was working late and Kaylee was at a friend's place. They'd done it in my bed. Eve had sent him a picture of my side of the mattress, still made up perfectly, and joked about how I'd never know. The rage should have hit me then, but it didn't. I just felt more of that emptiness. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left this hollow shell behind. I kept reading. Adam was having problems with his wife. She was suspicious, checking his phone, asking questions. Eve told him to be more careful, to delete messages more frequently. She said they just had to wait until the time was right. Then they could be together for real. Adam said he was working on an exit strategy. Eve said she was too. Their exit strategy apparently involved making me look bad. Eve had been keeping a journal, writing down every time I snapped at her or ignored Kaylee. Except none of it was true. She was creating a narrative where I was this cold, distant husband and father, building a case for the divorce so she could get custody and maybe even alimony. The kicker? Adam's wife had no clue about any of this. In the messages, Eve and Adam laughed about how oblivious she was, how she thought Adam was working late when he was actually with Eve, how she'd bought his story about needing to travel more for work. I closed the laptop and lay back on the scratchy motel bedspread. The ceiling had a water stain that kind of looked like a bird if you tilted your head right. I stared at it for a long time, just thinking. They thought they were so smart. They thought they had it all figured out. Eve would paint me as the bad guy, get the house, get Kaylee, probably get half my paycheck every month. Adam would leave his wife, move in with Eve, and they'd play happy family with my daughter, calling him dad. But they'd made one mistake. One crucial mistake. They didn't count on me finding out before they were ready. They didn't count on me having proof. And they definitely didn't count on me walking away without a fight, leaving them scrambling to figure out their next move. I grabbed my laptop again and got to work. First, I logged into all our bank accounts and checked the balances. Our joint checking had about $12,000. Savings had another $35,000. I transferred exactly half of each into my personal account that I'd opened years ago but never really used. $23,500. Not enough to retire on, but enough to get me started somewhere new. Then I started downloading bank statements. Every transaction from the past 6 months. I noticed something weird right away. There were cash withdrawals, usually $200 or $300 at a time, about twice a week, Eve's ATM card. When I cross-referenced them with the messages, they lined up perfectly with her hotel visits with Adam. She'd been using our money to fund her affair. But that wasn't the interesting part. The interesting part was the transfers. Small amounts, usually $400 or $500, moving from our joint savings into an account I didn't recognize. I did some digging and found out it was a separate savings account in only Eve's name. She'd been siphoning off our money for months. By my count, she'd moved about $8,000 into her secret account. I took screenshots of everything, the transfers, the withdrawals, the account statements. Then I noticed charges to hotels I'd never been to, restaurants we'd never eaten at together, even a jewelry store where she'd bought something for $300. I knew for a fact she hadn't bought me anything. Must have been a gift for Adam. More screenshots, more evidence. I was building a file that would destroy her in court. Next, I created a new email address, something generic that couldn't be traced back to me. Then I made new social media accounts, just basic profiles with fake names and stock photos. These would be my eyes and ears. I sent friend requests to Eve, Kaylee, Adam, Adam's wife, and a bunch of our mutual friends. Most people accept requests without really checking who the person is. Within a few hours, I had access to all their posts and photos. I could see what they were doing, what they were saying, without them knowing I was watching. Eve had posted a photo just an hour ago, her and Kaylee on the couch, watching TV, with some caption about girls' night in. The comments were all their friends saying how cute they looked, how lucky they were to be so close. If only they knew. I spent the next week at that motel, barely sleeping, living off gas station coffee and fast food. During the day, I'd go to the library and use their computers to do research. How to file for divorce. What evidence I'd need, how to protect my assets. I printed out everything and kept it all in a folder in my truck. At night, I'd monitor their social media, watch Eve post about her perfect life while secretly planning to leave me for another man. Watch Kaylee share TikToks about fake people and toxic relationships, the irony completely lost on her. Watch Adam post photos of his kids, playing the devoted dad while he was screwing my wife. On day 2, Eve finally reported me missing. I saw the Facebook post. If anyone has seen or heard from my husband, please let me know. He left for work 6 days ago and hasn't come home. I'm extremely worried. The comments were full of concerned friends offering to help search, suggesting she call the police. Funny thing was, she'd waited 2 full days to say anything. 2 days where she probably enjoyed not having me around. 2 days where Adam could come over freely without worrying about me showing up. She only posted when people started asking why I wasn't at work, why I wasn't responding to emails. I watched her tell people I'd been acting strange lately, that she was worried I was going through something, that she hoped I was okay and would come home soon. Oscar-worthy performance, really. The concerned wife, not the cheating liar. Kaylee shared the post and added her own message. Dad, if you're reading this, please come home. Mom and I are really scared. We love you. We love you. 3 words she probably hadn't said to me sincerely in years. I actually laughed when I read that. Sitting in my crappy motel room with the TV on mute, I laughed so hard I almost cried. The sheer audacity of it. The boldness to lie so publicly when just days ago she'd been on the phone calling me weird and saying Adam would be a better father. But the really interesting development happened on day 3. Adam started coming over more. I could see it in the photos that popped up on my fake accounts. Nothing obvious, just background shots. His jacket on our coat rack, his shoes by the front door, his truck in our driveway at 10 p.m. when he should have been home with his own family. Eve's sister commented on one photo asking if that was a men's jacket in the background. Eve responded saying it was mine, that she'd hung it up hoping I'd come home to see it and remember we were waiting for him. The lie came so easily to her, Adam's wife. Kelly had no idea what was happening. Her Facebook was full of posts about missing her husband, about him working so hard, about how lucky she was to have such a dedicated provider. She'd posted a photo of Adam with their 3 kids at some park, talking about how he always made time for family even when work was crazy. I actually felt bad for Kelly. She was about to have her life destroyed just like mine, and she had no clue it was coming. Her husband was at my house right now, probably in my bed, while she was home alone taking care of their kids and thinking he was such a great guy. That's when I made a decision. If I was going down, I wasn't going down alone, and I wasn't letting them control the narrative anymore. I spent the next 2 days putting together everything I'd found. Every screenshot, every bank statement, every piece of evidence of Eve's affair and her financial deception. I organized it all into a detailed timeline with dates, times, and amounts. I cross-referenced the affair messages with bank transactions and social media posts to create an undeniable picture of what had been happening. Then I did something that probably makes me a bad person, but I honestly didn't care anymore. I went to Walmart and bought a burner phone, one of those cheap prepaid ones that you can get for like $30. I loaded it up with minutes and spent an entire night transferring every screenshot, every photo, every piece of evidence onto that phone. The messages between Eve and Adam were particularly damning. The ones where they talked about how stupid I was, how clueless Kelly was, how they couldn't wait to be together full time, how Eve was building a case to make me look bad in the divorce, how Adam was planning to wait until his youngest started kindergarten so the custody battle would be easier. They'd planned everything, every detail, except for the part where I'd actually find out before they were ready. On day 8, I drove across town to where Adam and Kelly lived. Nice house in a good neighborhood, the kind of place where people still left their doors unlocked and kids played in the street until dark. I parked a few blocks away and walked up to their mailbox around midnight. The street was empty, just the sound of crickets and the occasional dog barking. I left the burner phone in their mailbox with a note. Simple, straightforward. Your husband has been having an affair with Eve for 5 months. Everything you need to know is on this phone. I'm sorry you have to find out this way. From someone who knows how you're about to feel. Then I walked back to my truck and drove away. I didn't stick around to see what would happen. I didn't need to. I'd lit the match, and now I just had to wait for the explosion. It took less than 48 hours. Kelly must have found the phone that morning when she went to get the mail. I imagine her sitting in her kitchen, scrolling through message after message, seeing her husband's betrayal laid out in explicit detail, reading about the hotels they'd been to, the lies he'd told, the future they'd planned without her. I watched it all unfold through my fake social media accounts. First, Adam's profile went dark, just completely offline, like he'd deleted everything. Then Kelly's status changed from married to it's complicated. Then her profile picture changed from a family photo to just her and the kids. By that evening, Adam's truck was gone from Eve's driveway. I saw that through Eve's sister's Instagram story, a video of her stopping by the house to check on Eve. The driveway was conspicuously empty except for Eve's car. Eve's Facebook remained upbeat for about 6 more hours. Posts about staying strong, about family being everything, about trusting in God's plan. Then suddenly, radio silence. No posts, no comments, nothing. I later found out through monitoring mutual friends what had actually happened. Kelly had absolutely lost it. She'd called Adam at work, screaming so loud his coworkers could hear it through his office door. She'd forwarded every screenshot to Adam's boss, to HR, to anyone who would listen. Turns out having an affair with a colleague violated about 17 different company policies. But here's where it got really good. Kelly didn't just confront Adam, she went full nuclear. She called Eve's workplace too, sent them the same screenshots, the same evidence, the same timeline. Suddenly, both Adam and Eve were being pulled into HR meetings, being questioned about their relationship, about whether they'd been lying on timesheets to cover up their affair. And guess what? They had been. All those client meetings Eve had logged, hotel visits with Adam, those site inspections Adam claimed he was doing, afternoon hookups in his truck. They'd been defrauding their company for months, stealing time, falsifying records. By day 10, I got a notification that Eve had tried to call me 17 times. I'd turned my phone back on that morning, curious to see what would happen. The voicemails started around 7 a.m. First one, "Hey, it's me. Can you please call me back? We need to talk. This is getting out of hand." Second one, "I don't know what you think is happening, but you need to come home so we can discuss this like adults." Third one, "Please, I'm begging you. Everything is falling apart here. I need you to come home." By the 7th voicemail, she was crying. "I don't understand why you're doing this. Yes, I made mistakes, but this is cruel. How could you just abandon your family? How could you leave Kaylee like this?" I deleted all of them without listening to the rest. Kaylee texted too. "Dad, what did you do? Why is everyone saying such horrible things about Mom? Why won't you answer your phone? I don't understand what's happening." I typed out a response. Just one line. "Ask your mom about Adam, then ask her about the phone call you had with her, where you said he'd be a better father than me." I sent it and turned my phone off again. The real chaos started on day 11. That's when I got a certified letter delivered to the motel. Divorce papers. Eve had filed first, trying to beat me to it. The petition claimed I'd abandoned the family, that I'd been emotionally distant for years, that I'd refused to participate in family activities or show interest in Kaylee's life. It asked for full custody, the house, alimony, and child support. I literally laughed out loud when I read it. She was still trying to control the narrative, still trying to paint herself as the victim. But she'd made another critical mistake. She'd filed before the workplace investigation was complete, before anyone knew about the fraud, before the full extent of her lies came out. I drove to the nicest law office in town and walked in with my folder full of evidence. The lawyer, this older guy named Frank, who looked like he'd seen everything twice, sat across from me and listened while I told him the whole story. I showed him the screenshots, the bank statements, the timeline, everything. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. Not a happy smile, more like a wolf spotting wounded prey. "Son," he said, "I'm going to enjoy this case very, very much." We filed a counterpetition the next day. In it, we laid out everything. The affair, the financial deception, Kaylee's knowledge and encouragement of her mother's cheating, the fraud at work. We attached every piece of evidence I'd collected. We asked for the house to be sold and assets divided, for custody to be reevaluated based on Eve's behavior, for her to be responsible for her own legal fees. Frank said we were going to destroy her. I believed him. The workplace investigation wrapped up on day 14. I found out through a friend who still worked there, someone who didn't know I was the one who'd started this whole chain reaction. Both Eve and Adam had been fired. Not suspended, not put on leave, terminated immediately for time card fraud, violation of the company's relationship disclosure policy, and creating a hostile work environment. Eve had worked there for 12 years, Adam for 15. Both gone in a single afternoon, escorted out of the building by security with their personal items in cardboard boxes. The whole office watched it happen. Suddenly, Eve wasn't getting paychecks anymore. The mortgage on our house, the car payments, the credit cards she'd maxed out buying gifts for Adam, all of it came due with no income to cover it. I'd taken half the savings, remember? She had her secret account with $8,000 in it, but that wouldn't last long. Adam was in an even worse position. He had 3 kids, a mortgage, a wife who'd frozen all their joint accounts and filed for emergency custody. Kelly wasn't playing around. She wanted him out of the house, away from the kids, and she wanted every penny he had. I watched it all unfold from my motel room. Kelly's Facebook became a chronicle of her divorce proceedings. She posted about finding a good lawyer, about documenting everything, about protecting her children from their father's choices. Her friends rallied around her, offering support and advice. Some of them knew Eve and started commenting about how they'd never trusted her, how they'd always thought something was off. Eve's social media went completely dark. No posts, no comments, no activity. Her friends started posting on her wall asking if she was okay, if she needed anything. Her sister made a cryptic post about betrayal and family loyalty that got about 200 comments from people asking what happened. Nobody was posting nice things about Eve anymore. The narrative had shifted. She'd gone from worried wife to exposed cheater in less than 2 weeks, and the court of public opinion was brutal. Kaylee's social media changed too. She deleted the post about me coming home, started posting angry song lyrics and vague statements about family and trust. Her friends commented asking what was wrong, but she never responded, just kept posting darker and darker stuff. Part of me felt bad for her. She was 13, caught in the middle of something she'd helped create but probably didn't fully understand. But then I'd remember that phone call, the one where she laughed about me being clueless, where she said Adam would be a better father, where she complained about having to pretend everything was normal. She'd made her choice. Now she was living with the consequences. On day 16, I got a call from Frank. The house situation was bad, he said. Eve hadn't paid the mortgage in 2 months. She'd been using that money to fund the affair, assuming she'd be able to catch up later or that I'd keep covering it. Now there was a notice of default on the property. But here's the thing Frank had discovered. Eve had taken out a second mortgage on the house about 8 months ago, $20,000 that she'd borrowed against our equity without telling me. The paperwork had my forged signature on it. Frank was practically giddy when he told me this. She committed fraud, he said. Not just marital fraud, actual criminal fraud. This changes everything. We filed an amended petition that same day, adding the fraudulent loan to our list of grievances. We also reported it to the bank and the police. Frank said it might not lead to criminal charges, but it would absolutely destroy her in the divorce proceedings. I asked him where the $20,000 had gone. He'd already checked. $13,000 to pay off credit cards she'd maxed out. $7,000 in cash withdrawals over the past 8 months, all of them lining up perfectly with the affair timeline. Hotels, dinners, gifts. She'd literally mortgaged our house to buy presents for her boyfriend. The calls from Eve were getting more desperate. She'd started calling from different numbers, probably hoping I'd answer if I didn't recognize it. The voicemails were a mix of anger and pleading. "You can't just do this. You can't destroy our family like this. Kaylee is asking about you every day. She's falling apart. Don't you care about your daughter? Fine. You want to know the truth? Yes, I made mistakes, but you were never really there anyway. You were always working, always distant. What was I supposed to do? Please, I'm sorry. I'll end things with Adam. I'll do whatever you want. Just please come home so we can fix this." That last one almost got me. Almost. But then I remembered those messages. The ones where she talked about how invisible I was, how easy it was to fool me, how she couldn't wait to be with Adam full time. I deleted the voicemails and blocked the new numbers. Adam's life was falling apart even faster than Eve's. Kelly had moved quickly with the divorce, and because of the affair and the job loss, she had all the leverage. She got emergency custody of the kids, got him removed from the house, froze his access to their accounts. He was living in his truck, last I heard, bouncing between friends' couches and cheap motels like the one I was in. His family had found out about the affair. His parents, his siblings, everyone. They'd all sided with Kelly, posted on Facebook about how disappointed they were, how they'd raised him better, how he'd thrown away a beautiful family for nothing. Adam's father even wrote a public post apologizing to Kelly for his son's behavior. The thing about small towns is that everyone knows everyone's business, and once the story got out, both families were essentially shunned. Eve's parents, who'd always been so proud of their daughter and her perfect marriage, were humiliated. They'd helped us with the down payment on the house, had bragged to their friends about what a great couple we were. I found out through a mutual friend that they'd confronted Eve, demanded to know how she could do this. Her father apparently told her she disappointed them more than he thought possible. Her mother cried and asked what they'd done wrong raising her. Eve's response? She blamed me, said I'd never appreciated her, never made her feel loved, never prioritized her needs. Said the affair was a symptom of a broken marriage, not the cause. Said if I'd been a better husband, none of this would have happened. Her parents didn't buy it. They'd seen me work my ass off for years to provide for their daughter and granddaughter. They'd watched me bend over backwards to make Eve happy, to give Kaylee every opportunity. They knew the truth. They called me. Her father did anyway. Left a voicemail apologizing for what Eve had done, saying they'd had no idea, saying they were ashamed of their daughter's choices. He asked if there was anything they could do to help. I called him back, told him I appreciated the call but that I needed distance from everyone right now. He understood, said if I ever needed anything, I should reach out. Then he said something that stuck with me. I don't know what happened to my little girl. The person who did this isn't the daughter I raised. I wanted to tell him that maybe he never knew his daughter as well as he thought, that maybe she'd always been this person and just hid it well. But I didn't. I just thanked him and hung up. Kaylee's extended family had turned on her too. Eve's siblings, her cousins, even her grandmother who'd always doted on Kaylee. They all knew now that Kaylee had been aware of the affair, had encouraged it, had actively participated in deceiving me and Adam's wife. Her aunt posted something on Facebook about how disappointed she was in her niece's behavior, how character matters more than blood. The post got shared like crazy, and suddenly Kaylee's friends were asking her about it, asking if it was true. Kaylee made her social media private after that, but the damage was done. The whole town knew. The whole extended family knew. She'd gone from beloved granddaughter and niece to the girl who helped her mother cheat on her father. By day 20, Eve was desperate. The house was in foreclosure. She had no job, no income, legal fees piling up, and a daughter who was being ostracized by her own family. Adam was useless to her now. He had his own problems and couldn't offer any support, financial or otherwise. She started trying to negotiate, had her lawyer contact Frank with offers. She'd admit to the affair if I'd agree to joint custody. She'd give up the house if I'd help her avoid criminal charges for the loan fraud. She'd do whatever it took to make this go away quietly. Frank asked what I wanted to do. I told him no deals. We were going to court, and we were going to let a judge see every piece of evidence we had. Every screenshot, every bank statement, every fraudulent signature, all of it. Eve's lawyer tried to argue that I'd abandoned the family, that my sudden disappearance was cruel and unusual. Frank countered with the affair timeline, showing that Eve had been planning to leave me anyway, that she'd been financially preparing for it by hiding money and taking out secret loans. He argued that I'd simply beat her to it. The discovery process was brutal for Eve. She had to turn over her phone, her computer, her financial records, everything. And in those records, Frank found even more damaging information. She'd been planning this for over a year. There were searches on her computer for divorce lawyers, for how to hide assets, for how to prove emotional abandonment. She'd talked to 3 different attorneys before all this blew up, shopping around for one who would help her take me for everything I had. The affair with Adam wasn't her first either. There were messages with 2 other men from her work, both married, both in positions of authority over her. Nothing physical seemed to have happened with them, but the conversations were definitely inappropriate. Flirty, suggestive, talking about meeting up but never quite following through. Eve wasn't who I thought she was. She'd never been who I thought she was. This wasn't a good person who made a mistake. This was someone who'd been manipulating and deceiving me for years, maybe our entire marriage. Frank presented all of this to the court. The judge, this stern woman in her 60s who looked like she didn't tolerate nonsense, reviewed everything carefully. The affair evidence, the financial fraud, the forged signatures, the premeditated planning to destroy me in a divorce. Then she asked to speak to Kaylee. In chambers, just the judge and a court-appointed advocate. Kaylee was in there for almost an hour. When she came out, she looked like she'd been crying. Eve tried to go to her, but Kaylee pulled away. I never found out exactly what was said in that meeting, but Frank told me later that the judge had been appalled by Kaylee's involvement in the affair. That a 13-year-old had knowingly participated in her mother's deception, had encouraged it, had laughed about her father's ignorance. The judge's ruling was swift and brutal. The house would be sold immediately. Eve would be responsible for half of the underwater debt from the second mortgage, as well as all legal fees for both sides. Custody of Kaylee would be joint, but I'd have primary physical custody. Eve would get supervised visitation until she completed parenting classes and therapy. Eve lost it in the courtroom, started screaming about how unfair it was, how I'd manipulated everyone, how the judge was biased. The bailiff had to escort her out while she was still yelling. Kaylee just sat there, staring at her hands. After the hearing, Frank pulled me aside. "You won," he said, "completely and totally. She has nothing left." He was right. Eve had no job, no house, no custody, massive debt, and a reputation that was destroyed beyond repair. Adam was in the same boat. His life completely imploded. Both of them had lost everything because they'd thought they were smarter than everyone else. The house sold at a loss. We'd bought it for $320,000. With the market downturn and the second mortgage, it sold for $280,000. After paying off both mortgages and the fees, there was about $15,000 left. Split 2 ways, we each got $7,500. Eve had to use her portion to pay part of her legal fees. I put mine in the bank and tried to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. Kaylee moved in with me a month after the hearing. I'd rented a small 2-bedroom apartment across town, nothing fancy but clean and safe. She showed up with her mom's car full of boxes, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. We didn't talk much those first few weeks. She'd come home from school, go to her room, stay there until dinner. We'd eat in silence. She'd go back to her room. On weekends, she'd visit Eve at her sister's house where Eve was now living, sleeping on a pull-out couch. I didn't push her to talk, didn't try to force a relationship, just kept the fridge stocked, made sure she got to school on time, signed her permission slips. The basics. One night, about 6 weeks in, she came out of her room and sat on the couch next to me. I was watching some documentary about deep-sea creatures, not really paying attention. She sat there for a few minutes in silence. Then she said, "I'm sorry." I looked at her. She was staring at the TV, not making eye contact. "For what, specifically?" I asked. Not mean, just honest. All of it. The phone call, knowing about Mom and Adam, not telling you, thinking it was funny. She was crying now. I didn't understand what it meant. I thought you didn't care about us, so why should I care about hurting you? I didn't say anything for a minute, just let her words hang there. "You told your mom I probably wouldn't even notice if she moved Adam in," I said quietly. "You called me weird. You said he'd be a better father." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to that hurt, but looking at her, I realized she was just a kid who'd been manipulated by her mother. Eve had turned Kaylee against me, had made me the enemy, had convinced her that I was the problem with our family. "You can't fix this with just sorry," I told her. "Trust takes time to rebuild, and I don't know if I'll ever fully trust you again." She nodded, still crying. "But," I continued, "you're my daughter, and I'm willing to try if you are." We sat there for a while longer, watching the documentary. She fell asleep on the couch, and I covered her with a blanket before going to my own room. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. Eve, meanwhile, was not doing well. She'd moved in with her sister, but that only lasted 2 months before her sister kicked her out. Apparently, Eve wasn't contributing to rent or groceries, spent all day on her phone trying to find a job, and was generally difficult to live with. She bounced around for a while, stayed with a friend, then another friend, then a cousin. Each time, the story was the same. She'd wear out her welcome, refuse to help with expenses, and get asked to leave. I heard through the grapevine that she'd tried to get back together with Adam, showed up at the motel where he was staying, begged him to give their relationship another shot. He turned her down, told her she'd ruined his life, and he never wanted to see her again. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd destroyed our marriage for him, lost everything for him, and he didn't even want her anymore. Eve eventually found a job at a retail store, making minimum wage. She was working register, dealing with customers, coming home exhausted and bitter. She'd gone from a comfortable office job with benefits and vacation time to standing on her feet for 8 hours a day getting yelled at by strangers. I should have felt satisfied, should have felt like justice had been served. But mostly I just felt nothing. The same emptiness I'd felt that first night when I read her affair messages. Kaylee and I slowly, carefully, started rebuilding something that resembled a relationship. She started therapy, which helped. The therapist helped her understand how Eve had manipulated her, how the affair was wrong regardless of any problems in the marriage, how her involvement had been damaging. She wrote me a letter one day, a long, detailed letter apologizing for everything and explaining her perspective, how Eve had told her I didn't love them anymore, how Eve had said I was having my own affair, which is why I was always distant, how Eve had painted Adam as this perfect man who would love them both the way they deserved. All lies, of course, but Kaylee had believed them because they came from her mother. I kept the letter, read it sometimes when I was feeling angry or hurt, reminded myself that Kaylee was a victim too, in her own way. We started having dinner together more often, actually talking, not just sitting in silence. She told me about school, about her friends, about the boy she had a crush on. I told her about my day at work, about the apartment complex drama, about the weird customers I dealt with. Slowly, we became something like a family again. Not the same as before, but something new, something more honest. About 4 months after everything imploded, I got a call from Adam's wife, Kelly. She wanted to meet for coffee, said she had something to tell me. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our neighborhoods. She looked tired but stronger than I expected. Not broken, just weathered. "I wanted to thank you," she said after we sat down. "For the phone, for telling me the truth." I shrugged. "You deserve to know. Most people wouldn't have done that. They would have kept it to themselves. Let me keep living the lie." She stirred her coffee, not looking at me. "My kids are doing okay. Better than I expected. They're angry at their dad, but they're dealing with it." We talked for over an hour. About our marriages, our divorces, the aftermath. She told me Adam was living 2 states away now, working construction, sending child support when he could, but mostly absent from his kids' lives. She'd moved on, was dating someone new, someone honest. I told her about Kaylee, about the apartment, about the strange new normal I was building. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Walking out that night? Not fighting for your marriage?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. There was nothing left to fight for. The marriage was already dead. I just didn't know it yet. She nodded like she understood. We said goodbye, Promised to stay in touch, though we both knew we probably wouldn't. She had her life, I had mine. The only thing connecting us was the wreckage of our former spouses' choices. I drove home thinking about that conversation, about whether I regretted anything. The answer was still no. I didn't regret leaving, didn't regret exposing the affair, didn't regret burning it all down. The only thing I regretted was not seeing it sooner, not recognizing the signs, not realizing years ago that I was living with people who saw me as a utility rather than a person. But you can't change the past. You can only move forward. Kaylee was doing her homework at the kitchen table when I got home. She looked up and smiled. A real smile, not the fake ones from before. "Hey, Dad, how was coffee with Mrs. Hayes?" "Good," I said. "She's doing well." "That's nice." She went back to her math homework. I stood there for a moment, watching her. My daughter, still dealing with the fallout of her mother's choices, still figuring out who she was without Eve's influence. We'd be okay, I thought. It would take time, but we'd be okay. About a month after that, my lawyer called with news. Eve's lawyer had reached out about the debt from the house. Eve couldn't pay her share. She was asking if I'd consider covering it in exchange for signing away all future claims to anything from the marriage. I talked it over with Frank. The debt was about $12,000. Not a small amount, but manageable if I spread it out over a couple years. "If you take on her debt, you're completely free," Frank said. "No more court dates, no more negotiations, nothing. It's done." I thought about it. Thought about what it would mean to truly close this chapter. To never have to deal with Eve again in any official capacity. "Do it," I told him. "I'll take the debt." He drew up the papers. Eve signed them the same day. Apparently, she was that desperate to be done with this too. Just like that, it was over. The marriage, the legal battles, all of it. I had $12,000 in debt, primary custody of my daughter, and absolutely nothing connecting me to Eve anymore. She had her supervised visitation with Kaylee every other weekend. I'd drop Kaylee off at the agreed location, a McDonald's parking lot halfway between my place and wherever Eve was living that month, and pick her up 3 hours later. We never spoke, just silent handoffs like we were exchanging hostages. Kaylee said the visits were awkward. Eve would try to explain herself, try to justify everything, try to make Kaylee understand that it wasn't her fault. Kaylee would sit there and listen because she had to, but she'd told me she didn't believe it anymore. "She keeps saying you were never there, that you didn't love us," Kaylee said one night. "But you're here now. You're the one who packs my lunch and helps with homework and asks about my day. Where's she?" "Working retail and living with her boyfriend's cousin." I didn't respond to that. Didn't badmouth Eve or try to turn Kaylee against her more than she already was. Just let Kaylee come to her own conclusions. One day, about 7 months after I'd left, Kaylee came home from a visit with Eve and said she didn't want to go anymore. "I'm done," she said. "I don't want to spend my weekends listening to her make excuses. Can I just stay home?" I called Frank, asked what our options were. He said at Kaylee's age, the court would take her preferences into consideration. We could file a motion to modify the visitation schedule. We did. The judge heard Kaylee's reasons, heard that she was in therapy and doing well, heard that forcing her to visit Eve was causing stress and anxiety. The judge granted the motion. Visitation became voluntary, and Kaylee chose not to participate. Eve sent me angry texts about it, said I'd turned Kaylee against her, said I was poisoning her daughter's mind. I didn't respond, just blocked the number and moved on. The last I heard, Eve was living with some guy she'd met at work, another retail employee, barely making ends meet. She tried to add me on Facebook using a new account, probably wanting to see what I was up to, but I ignored the request. I didn't care what she was doing anymore, didn't care who she was with or how she was living. She'd made her choices, and now she was living with them. As for me and Kaylee, we were doing okay. Better than okay, actually. We'd found a rhythm. She'd bring friends over sometimes and I'd make them snacks and let them have the living room. I'd go to her school events, her soccer games, her choir concerts, the things I'd always done before, but now she actually seemed to appreciate it. One night, about 10 months after everything started, she said something that caught me off guard. "I'm glad you left." I looked up from my laptop. "What?" "That night, when you left, I'm glad you did it." She was sitting cross-legged on the couch, her phone in her lap. "If you hadn't, we'd still be pretending, still lying, still living in that fake version of our family. You were pretty angry at me for a while," I reminded her. "I was angry at everyone, but mostly myself." She picked at a thread on the couch cushion. "I knew what Mom was doing was wrong. I knew it. But I convinced myself it was okay because you were the problem. Because that's what she told me. And now I know better. Now I see how hard you work to take care of me. How you show up even when I don't deserve it." She looked at me, and there were tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry I didn't see it before." I set my laptop aside and moved to sit next to her, put my arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me like she used to when she was little. "We're okay now," I told her. "That's what matters. She nodded against my shoulder. We sat there like that for a while, watching some reality show neither of us cared about. Yeah, we were okay. Different than before, scarred but healing. And honestly, that was more than I'd hoped for when I walked out that night 6 months ago. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning. I didn't even have to appear in court. Frank handled everything. Called me afterward to tell me it was done. "Congratulations," he said. "You're officially a free man." I thanked him and hung up. Sat in my truck in the work parking lot, staring at my phone. Officially divorced. Officially done with Eve. After 13 years of marriage, it had ended with a phone call and some paperwork. I should have felt something. Relief, sadness, anger, anything. But all I felt was that same emptiness from before. Like I'd been carrying this weight for so long that without it, I didn't know how to stand up straight. I went back to work, finished my shift, went home, made dinner for Kaylee and me, helped her with her algebra homework, watched TV until bedtime. Normal stuff, routine stuff. But that night, lying in bed in my small apartment, I finally let myself think about everything that had happened. The affair, the lies, the betrayal, the destruction of the life I thought I had, the months of fighting, the court battles, the slow rebuilding of my relationship with my daughter. And somewhere in all that thinking, I realized something. I wasn't empty anymore. I was free. Free from a marriage that had been dead for years. Free from a woman who saw me as a paycheck and a handyman. Free from the constant feeling of being invisible in my own home. Free from all of it. Kaylee was in the next room, safe and cared for. I had a job, a place to live, a future that was mine to shape however I wanted. It wasn't the future I'd planned, but it was honest. It was real. I fell asleep that night with something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next few months settled into a comfortable pattern. Work, home, Kaylee's activities, occasional weekend plans. I started reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Went out for beers with the guys. Joined a rec league softball team. Started going to the gym again. Kaylee made new friends at her new school. Started getting better grades. Even talked about joining the debate team. She seemed lighter somehow, like she'd been carrying weight too and had finally set it down. Eve's attempts to contact me became less frequent, then stopped altogether. The child support came in automatically through wage garnishment, so there was no need for us to communicate. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to a different city, trying to start over where people didn't know her story. Good for her, I thought. I hope she finds whatever she's looking for. Adam's life, from what I heard, was a disaster. His ex-wife had remarried. His kids barely spoke to him. He was working dead-end jobs and living in a studio apartment. The man who'd helped destroy my family had destroyed his own even worse. Again, I should have felt satisfaction. Should have felt like he got what he deserved. But I just felt nothing. He was irrelevant to my life now. Just another person who made bad choices and had to live with them. Time moved on. Kaylee started high school, made the honor roll, got her first boyfriend, who I was polite to but watched carefully. She rolled her eyes at my protectiveness, but I could tell she appreciated it. We never talked about Eve unless Kaylee brought it up, which was rarely. Once, about a year and a half after the divorce, she mentioned that Eve had reached out asking to meet for lunch. "Are you going to go?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Kaylee shrugged. "Maybe. I don't know. Part of me wants to hear what she has to say. Part of me doesn't care anymore. It's your choice," I told her. "Whatever you decide, I'll support it." She ended up going. Came back 2 hours later looking thoughtful. "How was it?" I asked. "Weird." She spent the whole time apologizing and trying to explain why she did what she did. Said she was going through something, that she felt trapped, that she made mistakes she'll regret forever. What did you say? I told her I appreciated the apology, but that I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. Maybe someday, but not now. Kaylee sat down at the kitchen table. She cried, said she understood, asked if we could maybe do this again in a few months. "Are you going to?" "Probably not. I don't know what good it would do. She can't undo what happened. Can't make it better with lunch and apologies." She looked at me. "Is that wrong? Should I give her another chance?" I sat down across from her. "You don't owe her anything, Kaylee. Not forgiveness, not a relationship, nothing. If you want to rebuild something with her someday, that's your choice. But you don't have to." She nodded, seeming relieved that I wasn't pushing her one way or the other. We never spoke about that lunch again. Eve stopped reaching out after that. Kaylee never mentioned wanting to reconnect. As far as I know, they haven't spoken since. Life went on. I got a promotion at work. Kaylee graduated 8th grade, then 9th, then 10th. Started talking about college, about what she wanted to study, about the future. She was turning into a smart, thoughtful young woman, and I was proud of her. Sometimes people asked me if I regretted how I handled everything, if I regretted walking out without a word, exposing the affair so brutally, burning every bridge on my way out the door. The answer was always the same: no, because that night when I walked out, I wasn't just leaving a cheating wife and a daughter who'd betrayed me. I was leaving a life that had been killing me slowly, day by day, year by year. I was leaving the version of myself who accepted being invisible, who tolerated being treated like furniture, who convinced himself that this was what marriage and family looked like. I saved myself that night. And in doing so, I eventually saved my relationship with my daughter too. Would I have preferred to find out differently? To have handled things more calmly, more maturely? Maybe, but I don't think it would have had the same result. Sometimes you need to completely destroy something before you can rebuild it properly. So no, I don't regret it. Not a single second of it. Because now, sitting in my apartment with my daughter doing homework at the kitchen table, both of us free from the toxicity that had defined our lives for so long, I can honestly say I'm happy. Not the picture-perfect happiness I thought I had before. Not the fake smiles and forced family photos. Real happiness. The kind that comes from knowing exactly where you stand with the people in your life. Kaylee looked up from her laptop and caught me watching her. "What?" she asked, smiling. "Nothing," I said. "Just glad you're here." Her smile widened. "Me too, Dad. Me too." And that was enough. That was more than enough. I silently packed a single bag while they were still downstairs. I heard them laughing at something on TV, their voices mixing with the laugh track from whatever show they were watching. It was around 10 p.m. I moved quickly, methodically, grabbed my clothes from the closet, my toiletries from the bathroom, my laptop and charger. The whole time I kept waiting for one of them to come upstairs to ask what I was doing, but they never did. I could hear Eve say something about getting more wine from the kitchen. Kaylee responded with something I couldn't make out, then more laughter. They sounded so carefree, so completely unbothered by my presence upstairs. Or my absence, really, since they probably hadn't even registered that I'd left the room. I zipped up my bag and stood there for a minute, looking around our bedroom. The photos on the dresser of our wedding day, of Kaylee as a baby, of family vacations, all those smiling faces that I now knew were lies. Or at least, my smile was real while everyone else was just going through the motions. I grabbed my winter jacket from the closet even though it was June. Something told me I'd need it eventually. Then I walked out of that bedroom for the last time. Didn't look back, didn't pause at Kaylee's door to see her one more time. Just walked down the stairs as quietly as I could. They were both on the couch, Eve's feet tucked under her, Kaylee leaning against her mother. The picture of a close mother-daughter bond. They didn't even glance my way as I passed behind them and headed to the front door. My hand was on the doorknob when Eve called out, "Can you grab the recycling on your way out tomorrow?" I almost laughed. She thought I was going outside for something, taking out trash, getting something from the truck. Never occurred to her that I might be leaving for good. I didn't answer, just opened the door and walked out into the night. My truck was in the driveway where I'd parked it hours ago. I threw my bag in the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel, hands shaking for the first time all evening. This was it. I was really doing this. Really walking away from 13 years of marriage, from the house I'd worked so hard to afford, from my daughter. I started the engine. The dashboard lit up, showing nearly a full tank of gas. I'd filled up yesterday, which now seemed like a lifetime ago. Back when I still thought I had a wife who loved me and a daughter who respected me. Before I could change my mind, I backed out of the driveway. The house looked the same as always. Warm light glowing from the living room windows. The porch light on because Eve always insisted we leave it on for safety. The welcome mat at the front door that said "Home Sweet Home" in cursive letters. I pulled onto the street and drove away. Didn't speed, didn't make any dramatic gestures, just drove normally, like I was heading to the store or to work. Except I wasn't coming back. I drove for about 20 minutes before I realized I had no idea where I was going. I'd been running on pure instinct, just needing to get away, to put distance between myself and that house full of lies. But now I was out on the highway with a bag of clothes and no plan whatsoever. I took the next exit and pulled into a gas station. Sat in the parking lot with the engine running, trying to think. I couldn't go to friends. They were all mutual friends, people who knew Eve, who would ask questions I didn't want to answer yet. Couldn't go to family. My parents were retired in Florida, and showing up on their doorstep at midnight would give my mother a heart attack. I pulled out my phone and searched for motels. Found one about 20 miles away that looked cheap and anonymous. The kind of place where nobody asked questions as long as you had cash. Perfect. The drive there gave me time to think about what I was doing. I was abandoning my family. No note, no explanation, no warning. Just gone. Part of me knew this was cruel, that Kaylee especially deserved better. But the bigger part of me, the part that had just overheard my daughter call me weird and say another man would make a better father, that part didn't care. They'd abandoned me first. Emotionally, mentally, in every way that mattered. I was just making the physical separation match the reality that had existed for who knows how long. The motel was exactly as advertised. Sketchy, cheap, anonymous. The desk clerk was an older guy who barely looked up from his phone when I walked in. I paid cash for a week, gave a fake name, and took the key to room 18. The room smelled like old cigarettes and mildew. The carpet was stained, the bedspread was thin, and I could hear traffic from the highway even with the door closed. It was about as far from my comfortable suburban home as you could get. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled out my phone. 23 missed calls from Eve, 47 text messages. I scrolled through them without reading most of them, just catching glimpses. Where are you? This isn't funny. I'm calling the police if you don't answer. Kaylee is worried sick. That last one almost made me respond. Almost. But then I remembered that phone call I'd overheard. Kaylee wasn't worried sick. Kaylee probably hadn't even noticed I was gone until Eve pointed it out. I turned off my phone and plugged it in to charge. Then I lay back on the scratchy bedspread and stared at the water-stained ceiling, trying to process what I'd just done. I'd walked out on my wife and daughter without a word. I'd taken half our savings in cash earlier that day from the ATM. I'd left them with a mortgage, bills, responsibilities. I'd essentially disappeared, and I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, no second thoughts, just that same vast emptiness that had filled me since reading those affair messages. I spent the next few days in a weird fugue state. I'd wake up in that dingy motel room, forget for a second where I was, then remember everything. The affair, the invisible years, Kaylee's betrayal, walking out. I started forwarding all the affair evidence to my personal email. Everything I'd screenshotted from Eve's phone I sent to an email account she didn't know about. Then I set up filters to automatically save anything from that address to a separate folder. Couldn't be too careful. Then I got curious about our finances. We had online banking, and I had all the passwords. I logged in from my laptop and started digging. That's when I found the first transfer. $500 from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. Then another one, 3 weeks later, $400 this time. I scrolled back through 6 months of statements and counted 12 transfers, all between $300 and $500. I clicked on one of the receiving account numbers and searched it. It pulled up a savings account in Eve's name only. Our bank wouldn't give me more details since I wasn't on the account, but I could see the transaction history from our side. She'd been funneling money into a secret account for months. I added up all the transfers, just over $5,000 that she'd hidden from me. Our rainy day fund, slowly being drained into an account I had no access to. I took screenshots of everything, the account transfers, the dates, the amounts, added them to my evidence folder. But I didn't stop there. I started going through credit card statements, utility bills, everything I could access online. Found charges to hotels I didn't recognize, restaurants I'd never been to, even a jewelry store where she'd spent $300 on something she'd never shown me. All of it got screenshotted and saved. All of it built a picture of a woman who'd been planning her exit for a long time, carefully squirreling away money and resources for when she was ready to make her move. The difference was, I'd beat her to it. On day 3, I created fake social media profiles, used stock photos, generic names, filled out basic information to make them look real. Then I started sending friend requests to everyone in our circle. Eve, Kaylee, Adam, Adam's wife Kelly, our mutual friends, co-workers, everyone. Most people accepted without really checking who I was. That's how social media works. Someone sends a request, you glance at the profile, see mutual friends, click accept, boom, I had access to all their posts. Eve had posted that she'd reported me missing. Her Facebook status was full of concerned comments from friends and family, asking if she was okay, offering to help search, suggesting she call the police. She was playing the worried wife perfectly. But what caught my attention was a comment thread from her sister asking if everything else was okay at home. Eve's response: "We've been having some issues, but I thought we were working through them. I never thought he'd just leave like this." Issues. She called her 5-month affair issues, like it was some minor disagreement about whose turn it was to do dishes. I kept monitoring. Saw Adam commenting on Eve's posts offering support. Saw him texting her according to mutual friends who were gossiping about how attentive he was being. Saw their plans forming in real time as they thought I was just gone, never to return with evidence. Adam's wife Kelly had no idea. Her Facebook was full of posts about her kids, about missing her husband who was working late constantly, about how lucky she was to have such a hard-working provider. The poor woman had no clue her husband was probably at my house right now, comforting my wife. That's when I knew what I had to do. I spent that entire day, day 4, putting together everything I had on Adam and Eve. Every screenshot, every message, every hotel charge, every lie. I organized it chronologically, created a timeline, cross-referenced everything to make it airtight. Then, I went to Walmart and bought a cheap burner phone, $30, came with some prepaid minutes. I spent the next 6 hours transferring every piece of evidence onto that phone. Photos, messages, screenshots, everything. On day 5, I drove across town to where Adam and Kelly lived. Nice neighborhood, better than ours actually. Their house was this pretty 2-story with a perfect lawn and one of those wooden swing sets in the backyard for their kids. I waited until after midnight, then walked up to their mailbox. My heart was pounding. This was it. This was the moment I burned it all down. I put the burner phone in their mailbox along with a note I'd written on plain printer paper. "Your husband has been having an affair with my wife, Eve, for 5 months. Everything you need to know is on this phone. I'm sorry you have to find out this way. From someone who knows how you're about to feel. Then I walked back to my truck, got in, and drove away. Didn't look back. Didn't wait to see what would happen. I'd lit the fuse. Now I just had to wait for the explosion. It didn't take long. The next morning, I was back at my motel, monitoring social media on my laptop, when Adam's profile suddenly went dark. Just completely offline. Not deactivated, but everything private. Every post, every photo, everything. Then Kelly's relationship status changed from married to Adam Hayes to nothing. Just blank. I waited, refreshing my feeds every few minutes, watching for the fallout. Around noon, Eve's sister posted something cryptic. Some people's true colors really show when things get hard. Disappointed doesn't even begin to cover it. The comments filled up fast with people asking what happened, but Eve's sister wasn't saying. Just responded with, "Not my story to tell, but you'll all find out soon enough." By evening, word was spreading. I saw it in the way mutual friends were suddenly being vague on their posts. How conversations would stop mid-thread when someone mentioned Eve or Adam's names. The rumor mill was churning, and it was only a matter of time before the full story came out. I found out later what happened that morning. Kelly had gone to get the mail around 7 a.m., found the phone, brought it inside, sat at her kitchen table and started scrolling. Saw every message, every photo, every piece of evidence laid out in chronological order. By 8 a.m., she was calling Adam at work, screaming so loud his co-workers could hear her through his office door. By 9 a.m., she'd forwarded everything to his boss and HR. By 10 a.m., she'd called a lawyer. And by noon, she'd called Eve's workplace and sent them copies of everything too. That's when things really exploded. Eve and Adam worked at the same mid-sized company, some regional office for a national firm. They had strict policies about workplace relationships, about ethical conduct, about time card accuracy. And Eve and Adam had violated pretty much all of them. The screenshots Kelly sent included messages where they talked about meeting during client visits that never happened. Site inspections that were actually hotel rooms. Training sessions that were afternoon hookups in Adam's truck. They'd been falsifying their timesheets for months, billing the company for hours they weren't actually working. That's time card fraud. That's a fireable offense at pretty much any company. HR launched an investigation immediately, started pulling their time cards, cross-referencing with the messages, checking security footage from the parking garage. Within 48 hours, they had enough evidence to terminate both of them. I found out through a former coworker who texted me asking if I'd heard what happened. Eve and some guy named Adam just got walked out by security. Whole office saw it. Apparently they were having an affair and lying about their hours. Crazy stuff. I responded with something neutral like, "Wow, that's intense," and left it at that. But inside, I was satisfied. They'd both just lost their jobs. Both had no income. Both were scrambling to figure out what the hell had just happened, and how their secret affair had suddenly become public knowledge. The calls from Eve became frantic after that. She called from different numbers, probably hoping I'd pick up if I didn't recognize it. Left voicemail after voicemail begging me to call her back, saying she needed to talk to me, saying everything was falling apart. One voicemail stood out. Her voice was shaking, clearly crying. "I know you're angry. I know I screwed up. But please call me back. I just lost my job. Adam's wife knows everything. I don't know how, but she knows. Kaylee is asking about you constantly, and I don't know what to tell her. Please, I need you. We need you. Just come home and we can figure this out." I deleted it without a second thought. She didn't need me. She needed my paycheck. She needed me to come home and fix everything like I always did, to be the safety net while she figured out her next move. But I wasn't coming back. I was done being the solution to problems she created. Kaylee started texting too. At first, it was worried messages. "Dad, where are you? Are you okay? Please just let us know you're safe." Then they got more desperate. "Mom is really struggling. Can you please come home? I don't understand what's happening. Why won't you answer me?" And finally, angry. "I can't believe you just left us like this. Whatever problems you and Mom have, you don't abandon your family." That last one almost made me respond. Almost. But then I remembered that phone call. Her voice saying Adam would be a better father. Her laughing about how I wouldn't even notice if he moved in. I typed out a response. "You wanted Adam to be your father. Ask Mom where he is now." But I didn't send it. Not yet. I saved it in my drafts and went back to monitoring the situation. Adam's life was imploding faster than Eve's. Kelly hadn't just kicked him out, she'd frozen all their joint accounts, filed for emergency custody of their 3 kids, contacted his entire family and told them everything. I saw it play out on Facebook. Adam's mother posted something about being devastated by my son's choices and standing with Kelly during this difficult time. Adam's father wrote this long post about honor and family and how he'd raised his son better than this. Adam's siblings all shared Kelly's GoFundMe she'd set up to help with legal fees. Every single member of his family publicly sided with Kelly. He'd lost his job, his wife, his kids, his home, and his family in less than a week, all because he thought he could have a secret affair without consequences. Eve wasn't doing much better. Her workplace had escorted her out with all her belongings in a cardboard box, banned her from the premises, and were in the process of deciding whether to press charges for the time card fraud. She'd worked there for 12 years, had friends there, mentors, a career trajectory, all gone. Her family was asking questions too. I saw her mother commenting on posts asking what was really going on, saying rumors were circulating, demanding answers. Eve wasn't responding, just posting vague things about going through a hard time and needing space. Meanwhile, our bank account was draining fast. I'd taken my half, remember? She had her half plus that secret account with $5,000 in it, but no income was coming in. The mortgage was due, utilities, car payments, everything. I got an alert on my phone that she'd tried to access my portion of the joint account. The bank had denied her request since I'd transferred it to my personal account. She called the bank, apparently, demanding they reverse it. They refused. She was running out of money, running out of options, and running out of time. On day 10, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Mr. Morrison?" A woman's voice. Professional. "Yes. This is Janet from Neighborhood Bank. I'm calling about your joint mortgage with Eve Morrison. We've received notice that the account is severely delinquent. Are you aware of this?" "No," I lied. "I've been out of town." "Well, sir, the mortgage hasn't been paid in 2 months. We've sent several notices to the property address. If payment isn't received within 30 days, we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings." 2 months. She'd been skipping the mortgage for 2 months, probably using that money to fund her affair. Hotels weren't cheap, neither were dinners and gifts for Adam. "I understand," I told Janet. "I'll look into it." "We'd appreciate that, sir. We'd like to avoid foreclosure if possible." I hung up and started digging deeper into our finances. Found more irregularities. Credit cards I didn't recognize, bills that hadn't been paid, accounts that were overdrawn. Eve had been playing financial Russian roulette, gambling that she could keep everything afloat long enough to either fix it or divorce me and make it my problem. But she'd run out of time. I took screenshots of everything and forwarded it all to my email. More evidence for the divorce lawyer I was definitely going to need. Speaking of lawyers, I found one the next day. Frank Mitchell, older guy with a reputation for being ruthless in divorce proceedings. His office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, but reviews said he was the best in town. I walked in with my folder of evidence and spent 3 hours telling him everything. The affair, the financial fraud, Kaylee's involvement, the abandoned mortgage, everything. When I finished, Frank leaned back in his chair and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a predatory one. "Son," he said, "this might be the easiest case I've ever taken. She's committed fraud, violated her marital vows, and endangered your credit with her financial mismanagement. We're going to destroy her in court. That's what I'm hoping for. When do you want to file? How soon can you have the paperwork ready?" 2 days. "Do it." Frank got to work immediately. Started drafting a petition that laid out every betrayal, every lie, every piece of financial fraud. We attached evidence to everything. Screenshots, bank statements, hotel receipts, all of it. We asked for the house to be sold immediately to cover the debt. We asked for me to have primary custody based on Eve's affair and Kaylee's exposure to it. We asked for Eve to cover all legal fees. We asked for absolutely everything, knowing we probably wouldn't get it all, but wanting to start negotiations from a position of strength. While Frank worked on the filing, I kept monitoring Eve and Adam's continued downfall. Adam was living in his truck now, literally sleeping in the parking lot of a 24-hour gym so he could shower there in the mornings. His family had cut him off completely. His mother had sent him a message that got shared around Facebook. "You are no longer welcome in our home. You've brought shame on this family and broken the hearts of 3 innocent children. Do not contact us until you've made this right with Kelly." Kelly, meanwhile, was thriving. She'd gotten a good lawyer, documented everything, and was building an airtight case for full custody and maximum child support. The community had rallied around her. Her GoFundMe had raised over $15,000. Eve's situation was getting worse too. Her sister had kicked her out after finding out about the affair. Apparently, Eve's sister and Kelly were friends, and when she found out Eve had been the other woman, she told Eve to pack her stuff and get out. Eve tried staying with friends, but word was spreading fast. Small town, lots of gossip. Nobody wanted to be associated with the woman who destroyed 2 families with her affair. I saw her posting on Facebook asking if anyone knew of short-term rentals or rooms for rent. The comments were sparse and unhelpful. She was being quietly blacklisted by the community. And still, she kept calling me, kept texting, kept begging me to come home. Not because she loved me or missed me, because she needed me to fix everything. On day 14, Frank called me. "Paperwork's ready. Just need your signature and we can file." I drove to his office, signed everything, and watched him file it electronically with the court. Just like that, I'd officially started divorce proceedings. She'll be served tomorrow, Frank said. Probably at work. She doesn't work there anymore. Frank raised an eyebrow. Really? I explained about the affair being exposed, about both of them getting fired for time card fraud. Frank's smile grew wider. This just keeps getting better. Judge is going to love this. When do you think we'll go to court? Depends on her response. If she contests, could be a few months. If she's smart and takes a settlement, could be wrapped up in weeks. I doubted Eve would be smart about this. She'd fight, try to save face, try to make me look bad. But Frank had told me we had an airtight case. She couldn't win this, no matter how hard she tried. The next day, Eve was served with divorce papers at our house. I know because I drove by and saw the process server leaving. I also know because my phone immediately blew up with calls and texts. Are you serious right now? You're divorcing me? After you abandoned us? How dare you? How dare you? Kaylee is devastated. Absolutely devastated. I hope you're happy. I wasn't happy exactly, but I was satisfied. The wheels were in motion, and there was no stopping them now. That night, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I created a detailed email laying out everything. The 5-month affair between Eve and Adam, Kaylee's knowledge and encouragement, the financial fraud, the secret bank account, the falsified timesheets, all of it. I attached screenshots as evidence, made sure everything was clearly labeled and organized. Then I sent it to everyone. Eve's parents, my parents, our siblings, our mutual friends, even some of our co-workers who I knew would spread it around. The subject line was simple: the truth about my marriage. The body of the email was straightforward. Many of you have been asking what happened to me, why I left. This is why. I'm attaching evidence of a 5-month affair between my wife Eve and her co-worker Adam. You'll also see evidence of financial fraud, including a secret bank account and forged signatures. My daughter Kaylee knew about the affair and actively encouraged it, calling me weird and saying Adam would be a better father. I walked out the day I discovered this because I saw no reason to stay in a family that clearly didn't value me. I've filed for divorce and will be seeking full custody. If you want to support Eve through this, that's your choice. But you deserve to know the truth first. I sent it at 11 p.m. and turned off my phone. Didn't want to deal with the immediate response. I'd check it tomorrow. The next morning, my phone had 127 notifications when I turned it on. Texts, calls, voicemails, Facebook messages, emails. Everyone had an opinion. Eve's parents called and left a voicemail. Her father sounded devastated. We had no idea. We're so sorry. We thought you two were happy. We can't believe she did this. Please call us back. My parents left similar messages, though my mother was more blunt. That woman destroyed you. I never liked her, you know. Too selfish. You're better off without her. Mutual friends were split. Some sided with me, saying they'd always known something was off about Eve. Others said I was wrong to air our dirty laundry publicly, that I should have handled this privately. But the most interesting responses came from Eve's extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them expressing shock and disappointment. Her grandmother, who'd always loved Eve, left a voicemail that was just her crying and asking why. And then there were the responses about Kaylee, Eve's sister. I can't believe Kaylee knew. She's only 13. How could Eve put her in that position? My brother, your daughter said Adam would be a better father? What the hell? Has Eve been turning her against you? A mutual friend. I saw Kaylee last week and she seemed fine. She didn't say anything about this. Poor kid must be so confused. They were all reacting like Kaylee was a victim of Eve's choices. And maybe she was, in some ways. But she'd also been an active participant. She'd known what was happening and chose to keep it secret, to encourage it, to mock me behind my back. I wasn't sure how I felt about her anymore. She was my daughter, and part of me would always love her. But another part of me saw her as an extension of Eve. Someone who'd betrayed me, lied to me, treated me as less than. Frank called later that day. Your email made waves. Eve's lawyer is trying to use it against you, saying you're slandering her publicly. Is it slander if it's true? Not at all. And we have evidence for every claim you made. Her lawyer is grasping at straws. He paused. But I should warn you, this is going to get ugly. Eve's fighting back hard. Let her fight. I've got nothing left to lose. And I meant it. She'd already taken everything from me that mattered. My trust, my dignity, my family, the house, the money, the possessions. None of that mattered anymore. I'd walk away with nothing material if it meant I was free of her. But Frank had other plans. We're not letting her walk away from this. She committed fraud, both marital and financial. She destroyed this family. She's going to pay for it. And he was right. Over the next few weeks, Frank systematically dismantled every argument Eve's lawyer tried to make. She claimed I'd abandoned the family. We showed evidence of the affair and Kaylee's involvement, proving I'd had just cause to leave. She claimed I'd taken money that wasn't mine. We showed the joint account statements proving I'd only taken my half, plus evidence of her secret account where she'd been hiding our money. She claimed I was an unfit father. We showed Kaylee's involvement in the affair and her statements about me, proving Eve had poisoned our daughter against me. Every move she made, Frank countered with evidence. Every lie she told, we exposed with documentation. She was drowning, and we were holding her head underwater. The workplace investigation concluded during all this. Both Eve and Adam had been terminated for cause, meaning no severance, no unemployment benefits, nothing. The company was also considering pressing charges for the time card fraud, though their lawyers were still reviewing the evidence. Adam's divorce was moving even faster than mine. Kelly had filed immediately, and with the evidence of the affair plus Adam's job loss, she had all the leverage. She was getting full custody, the house, half his future earnings, everything. Adam was completely destroyed. Lost his job, his family, his home, his reputation. Last I heard, he'd moved 2 states away to live with an old college friend, working construction and sending child support when he could afford it. Eve's life wasn't much better. She'd burned through her savings trying to keep up with the mortgage and bills. When that ran out, she defaulted on everything. The bank started foreclosure proceedings on our house. Her car got repossessed. She was living with whoever would take her in, bouncing from couch to couch. And through it all, she kept trying to contact me, kept begging me to stop the divorce, to give her another chance, to help her fix everything. I never responded, not once. Kaylee eventually stopped texting too. I think she realized I wasn't coming back, wasn't going to play the role of dad anymore. Not to her, not in that capacity. Maybe someday we'd rebuild something, but right now, I had nothing to say to her. The court date finally arrived about 3 months after I'd filed. Frank had warned me it wouldn't be pleasant, that Eve would probably try to make me look bad, but that we had the evidence to counter everything. He was right on all counts. Eve showed up looking defeated. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes, wore clothes that looked wrinkled like she'd slept in them. Her lawyer looked uncomfortable, like he knew this was a losing battle but had to go through the motions. Frank laid out our case methodically. The affair timeline, the financial fraud, the forged signatures, Kaylee's involvement, everything documented, everything provable. Eve's lawyer tried to paint me as cruel for leaving without warning, for exposing the affair so publicly, for turning the family against Eve. But every argument fell flat when confronted with the evidence of what Eve had actually done. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Rollins who looked like she'd seen everything twice and was tired of people's bullshit, reviewed everything carefully. Then she asked to speak with Kaylee. They were in chambers for almost an hour. When they came out, Kaylee looked like she'd been crying. Eve tried to approach her, but Kaylee stepped away. Judge Rollins' ruling was swift and brutal. The house would be sold immediately to cover the defaulted mortgage and the fraudulent second mortgage. Whatever was left would be split 50-50. Eve would be responsible for half of the second mortgage debt since she'd taken it out. Custody would be joint, but I'd have primary physical custody. Eve would get supervised visitation until she completed parenting classes and therapy. Eve would pay for all legal fees, both hers and mine. The judge also recommended that the bank and police investigate the forged mortgage documents, strongly suggesting criminal charges might be appropriate. Eve completely lost it. Started screaming about how unfair it was, how I'd manipulated everyone, how the judge was biased. The bailiff had to physically escort her out of the courtroom while she was still yelling. Kaylee just sat there, staring at her hands, not saying a word. After the hearing, Frank pulled me aside. "You won. Completely. She has nothing left." He was right. Eve had no job, no house, no custody, massive debt, and a criminal investigation potentially coming. Her life was over, at least the version of it she'd been living. The house sold quickly, at a loss. We'd bought it for $320,000 8 years ago. With the market crash and the second mortgage that Eve had taken out, it sold for $280,000. After paying off the primary mortgage of $250,000 and the second mortgage of $20,000, plus realtor fees and closing costs, there was about $15,000 left. Split 2 ways, we each got $7,500. Frank called me when the check came through. Well, that's not much, but at least it's something. I deposited my check and looked at my account balance. The $7,500 from the house, plus the $23,000 I'd taken from our joint account when I left, plus about $3,000 I'd saved from my paychecks over the past few months. Total of about $33,000. Not enough to retire on, but enough to start over. Eve used her $7,500 to partially pay her legal fees, which totaled over $12,000. She still owed Frank and her own lawyer. Frank had a payment plan set up where she'd be paying him for the next 2 years at least. The bank did investigate the second mortgage fraud. Turns out, forging someone's signature on a loan document is a felony. They turned their findings over to the district attorney, who decided to press charges. Eve was arrested 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, charged with fraud, forgery, and several other financial crimes. She made bail, but the trial was pending. Her court-appointed lawyer told her she was likely looking at probation at minimum, possibly jail time if the judge wanted to make an example. Her life was completely destroyed, and part of me felt nothing about it. Actually, that's not true. I felt relieved. Relieved that she couldn't hurt me anymore. relieved that I was free. Kaylee moved in with me about a month after the divorce was final. I'd gotten a small 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town, nothing fancy but clean and safe. She showed up with a few boxes of her belongings, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. We didn't talk much at first. She'd go to her room, stay there for hours, come out for dinner, eat in silence, go back to her room. It was like living with a ghost. I didn't push her, didn't try to force conversations or bonding moments. Just made sure she had food, clean clothes, got to school on time. The basics. One night, about 3 weeks after she moved in, she knocked on my bedroom door. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat on the couch, the TV muted in the background showing some nature documentary about penguins. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for everything. The phone call, knowing about Mom and Adam, not telling you, thinking it was funny. I didn't say anything, just waited for her to continue. Mom told me you didn't love us anymore, that you were just staying out of obligation. She said you were probably having your own affair. That's why you were so distant." Kaylee was crying now. I believed her. I thought if you didn't care about us, then why should I care about hurting you? "Do you still believe that?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "No. I see how hard you work now, how you make sure I have everything I need, how you show up even when I don't deserve it." She wiped her eyes. Mom was lying. About all of it, and I was stupid enough to believe her. "You weren't stupid. You were 13 and your mother was manipulating you. That doesn't make it okay. I said terrible things about you. I knew what Mom was doing and I didn't tell you. I helped her hurt you." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She wasn't the same kid who'd laughed on the phone about me being clueless. She'd been through hell too. Lost her home, her family structure, watched her mother's life fall apart. She was a different person now. "You're right," I said. "It doesn't make it okay, and I don't know if I'll ever fully trust you again." She nodded, fresh tears falling. "But you're my daughter, and I'm willing to try if you are." She hugged me then, the first real physical contact we'd had in months. I hugged her back, and we sat there for a long time, both of us crying, both of us trying to figure out how to be a family again.